is a family affair that keeps growing up. Identical twins provide some inspiring offsprings for their proud Padres. It's a win. A Boston junior gives birth to his first of the year in Home Sweet Home. Boys will be boys, but the kids from California become the best to make their mothers beam. Major League Papas share the spotlight with their big league sons on Father's Day. A member of the Yankee Brotherhood brings home the bacon and makes Toronto say uncle. A paternal redleg follows in a youngster's footsteps and holds a reunion. It's a relative call on This Week in Baseball. National League Flash. San Diego was rocking and rolling over the Western Division leading Padres. Tim Lawler set the pace against Cincinnati, going all the way and striking out 12 for a 5-4 mark. Dave Drapecki was an all-star as a starting pitcher in '83. But this season, he's been an effective force out of the bullpen, winning 3 games and saving 6.
We have 3 short relievers. And if you look at all the other teams in the National League, they really can't say they have 3 short relievers. With Drapecki, myself, and Goose, any one of us can come in at any time. And so if one of us does get a little overworked, there's somebody behind him to pick him up.
The Padres have displayed a mighty smooth beat with their bats as well. 24-year-old Tony Gwynn has been in the swing all season, and he was leading the majors with a batting average above .360.
I'm an inside-out hitter for the most part, and that's just, you know, just throwing my hands through first before the barrel of the bat, and the ball always goes to left field for the most part. And, you know, I've had that stroke ever since, I don't know, Little League.
Greg Nettles rediscovered his big league stroke against the Reds, cracking 3 home runs in 2 games and driving in 7. Steve Garvey was hitting almost 35 points below his career average of 300, but Garvey was contributing big in the RBI department with 35.
As long as the team is in first place, I can put up with maybe being a little deficient in the average area as long as the run production is there.
We're not at the halfway mark. We're just passing the 1/3 mark right now, so there's a long way to go, but I like the character of this club and the chemistry of it.
Character and chemistry, a combo that could carry the Padres a long way this year. In Los Angeles, a 4-game clash between the Dodgers and Braves. L.A. saw Atlanta take Game 1 for a team record 9 straight road wins. And Dale Murphy got the Braves in gear the next day with his 14th home run to take over the league lead. Tommy Lasorda relied on his bats to bring the Dodgers back. R.J. Reynolds drove home 2 runs in the bottom of the 7th inning for his first game winner, and then the series was tied. The next day, Joe Torre again gave the nod to Test Reynolds. Rick Mundy was walked with the Dodgers down a run in the bottom of the 9th, bringing R.J. to bat. R.J. okay. A 2-run single and the 2nd straight game-winning hit for the 24-year-old rookie. Los Angeles brushed off the Braves once again in Game 4. Kenny Landreau, who homered in Games 2 and 3, did it again in the finale for a .357 average against Atlanta. Alejandro Pena ran his record to 7-2 with 4 strikeouts in less than 6 innings. He also got the game-winning hit, while Bert Hooton earned his 3rd save as a new member of the Dodger bullpen to help Los Angeles snare 3 out of 4. Steve Nicosia of San Francisco went 3 for 3 in a win over Houston. Before that, he hit safely in his last 2 at-bats against San Diego. Another 3-for-3 outing in the next game against the Astros gave Nicosia 8 base hits in a row. The New York Mets can no longer be written off. A major reason why? Dwight Gooden. The 19-year-old rookie struck out 5 straight Pirates and 6 overall to go 5-3 and tie for the major league lead in strikeouts with 93. It was the 2nd time Gooden struck out 5 straight and the 7th time that he struck out the side in 1 inning.
Dwight Gooden has been able to handle any situation that we've thrown in front of him up to this particular point. Everything from the big crowds to the big game to opposing the #1 pitcher on the other staff. And these are all things that you look for to see how a young pitcher is going to measure in the long run.
Jesse Orozco had a run of 3 saves in 3 appearances to rank among the league leaders with 12. And the Mets ran off with 7 out of 8 to stay near the top of the East. The weekend of Father's Day, a time for families at ballparks everywhere. Baseball has a long tradition of fathers and sons who share not only a love for watching the game, but also for playing it, even at the big league level. Little League, too. Former Major Leaguer Tito Francona can at times be found watching his son Terry, who plays for Montreal and is among the big league leaders in hitting this year with an average near 350. Tito ranks 9th all-time in pinch hit at bats with 365, and in 15 big league seasons, he hit for a career average of 272. A bit behind Terry's current pace. Detroit was the old stomping ground of one-time Tiger pitcher Paul Trout, and Chicago's Wrigley Field is where his son Steve is stomping for the Cubs these days. Paul is nicknamed Dizzy, and it might suit Steve as well, although there's nothing dizzy about his 7-3 mark. Across town at Comiskey Park, Vance Law is swinging for the White Sox, but in the 1950s and 60s, his father Vern was pitching for Pittsburgh. Bob Skinner was a teammate of Vernon Law for 9 seasons. Skinner's now the Pirate hitting coach, and his son Joel plays with Vern's son Vance in Chicago. Yogi Berra was a catcher with the New York Yankees for 18 years. Considered among the greatest of all time, Yogi is a member of the Hall of Fame. Of course, these days he manages the Yankees while his son Dale plays for the Pirates. The name Bell rings a father-son note. Gus Bell played 15 big league seasons. Son Buddy now toils for Texas. Ray Boone spent 13 years in the majors. His son Bob is now playing in his 13th big league season. Ozzie Virgil Sr. played 9 years, now coaches for San Diego. Ozzie Jr. catches for Philadelphia. New York Yankee Roy Smalley is the son of a former big leaguer with the same name. California's Dick Schofield is also named after his big league dad. Just a sampling of baseball's father-son major leaguers. Now it's time for this week's Volkswagen quiz, brought to you by the 1984 models. It's not a car, it's a Volkswagen. Cal Ripken Sr. coaches third base for Baltimore. His son Cal Jr. is the Orioles shortstop. The only father-son combo on one team.
Oh, boy. Got one. Tiger and fly ball going on the ground ball.
In Minnesota in the late 70s, Gene Mauch was manager and his nephew Roy Smalley played for him. But for this week's quiz, can you name the only father ever to manage his son in the majors? Stay tuned for a long-term skipper who always dressed for the game.
What?
This week in country music, we'll see why.
Sunday at 5 on TV 11.
American League takeoff. Baltimore hoped to catch the Tigers by the tail, but after splitting 2 games with Detroit, the O's got shook up in the field during a doubleheader. Gibson did some shaking and baking with his bat, going 6 for 10 in the twin bill, driving home 6 runs. There was simply no stopping him. Alan Trammell had Baltimore shaking with 5 hits and 9 at-bats in the 2 games, plus 4 RBIs to keep his league-leading average near 350.
I feel very confident right now. I feel I'm in a good groove at the plate, and it doesn't matter really who's pitching. I think that I'm going to make good contact, but you don't have a crystal ball and you can't guide the hits in, so I'll just take it like that.
Howard Johnson took it every which way, hitting his 4th home run, collecting 2 RBIs, and going 5 for 6. Detroit pitchers also battered Baltimore. In the nightcap, Dan Petrie tossed a 3-hitter to improve his record to 9-3 as the Tigers avenged a series that third-place Baltimore won a week earlier in Detroit. Next stop, Toronto, to take on the second-place Blue Jays. And Alan Trammell got the Tigers snarling in the very first inning of the opener. He tripled and then was driven home to give Detroit in 58 games an amazing total of 58 first-inning runs. How about that average? Willie Hernandez came on to record save number 10 and maintain an ERA below 2.2 when the rampaging Tigers took Game 1 to regain a comfortable lead in a tough Eastern Division, despite losing the next 2 games to the Blue Jays. At Yankee Stadium in New York, the fans rallied behind beleaguered manager Yogi Berra, and Yogi saw the Yankees rally against Toronto. In the opener, Dave Winfield extended his hitting streak to 15 games with a 2-out single in the bottom of the 11th. The Yankees decided to gamble by giving the green light to Winfield. Safe and in scoring position, Steve Kemp promptly rapped out his first game-winning hit of the year on a bat-hop single. The Yankees called on the same combination in Game 2 against Toronto ace Dave Stieb, who was sailing through 8 2/3 innings. But Ron Guidry was also cruising with 7 strikeouts, highlighting a complete game victory. Dave Winfield was again the batter with 2 outs in the bottom of the 9th when, bingo, the hitting streak continued. And another game-winning opportunity was set up for Steve Kemp. And he came through in clutch fashion for the 2nd night in a row. And that gave him a .529 average with 14 RBIs over 8 games. Yankee bats were on high once more in the last game, sparked by 23-year-old Don Mattingly's 2nd home run of the series, giving him 9 this year, plus 33 RBIs and a batting average of .330. Dave Righetti had a stretch of more than 20 innings with only 1 earned run allowed, earning him a win and a save against Toronto as the Yankees swept the series and showed signs of a resurgence. In Boston, the red-hot Red Sox tuned into a winning rhythm. Milwaukee fell victim to the Boston beat when Rich Gale got his first win of the season with 4 innings of shutout ball. 30-year-old Gale was recently called up from the minors for a comeback bid with the Sox. Dennis Boyd tossed a complete game and gave up 11 hits, but no earned runs for his first win of the year. Ah, sweet victory of life. The Boston Bats could not be cooled off. 42 hits and 31 runs in the last 3 games against the Brewers. Miller pinch hit with the score tied in the 8th inning of the finale, and he smacked a triple for his first game winner this year. Mike Easler went 7 for 15 in the 4 games with 2 home runs and 11 RBIs. And he raised his average almost 70 points to above 310 with an 18-game hitting streak. And how about that Jim Rice? Hit .600 against Milwaukee with 2 homers. Drove in 6 runs, not only to tie for second in the league with 46, but to go above 1,000 for his career. And the Sox were rolling with 12 out of 14. Reed Nichols gave the Sox one of those wins, but it wasn't easy. He broke his bat with 2 out and 2 men on in the bottom of the 9th with the score tied against New York. And then he broke another one. Comic relief amid the drama. Nichols had to borrow Rick Miller's bat to bring an end to the game, which Boston had tied with 3 runs earlier in the inning. And there goes a 3-run homer, topping off a 6-run Red Sox rally on the bottom of the 9th. But Reed Nichols drove everybody batty before getting his first game winner. Now, let's get to the answer of this week's Volkswagen quiz. Connie Mack was the only man to manage his son in the big leagues. Earl Mack played a total of 5 games for his always well-dressed father with the Philadelphia Athletics in 1910, 11, and 14. Connie managed a record 7,878 games over 53 years, winning and losing more than any other skipper. He took the A's to 8 World Series, won 5. Isn't baseball just the duckiest? Flocking to a game is like sipping duck soup, especially when you see plays that don't exactly fit the bill. Hey, man, better duck. So many ducky sights in a big league duck pond. There's the duck flip and the duck flop. Then there's the rare duck paddle. And of course, the duck walk. Let's hear a duck call, because here comes some duck waddles. Hey, how about some duck hunting? But don't ruffle any feathers. Well, at least they all took a quack at it. Folks, I didn't write that one. So I'm going to ad-lib and duck out of here. Why don't you come with me? Now, it's time to open the book on an exciting chapter of Major League Dramatics. Some thrilling plays to focus on. Up at first, New York Met Keith Hernandez. Los Angeles Dodgers Steve Sachs. St. Louis Cardinal Ozzie Smith. Milwaukee's Jim Gantner. The Mets again with Kelvin Chapman. Wayne Gross, Baltimore Orioles. Buddy Bell, Texas Rangers. Seattle's Ken Phelps. Detroit Tiger Johnny Grubb. Toronto's Lloyd Mosby. Boston's Jim Rice. Kevin McReynolds, San Diego. Gary Ward, Texas Rangers. Mike Marshall, Los Angeles. Cleveland's George Bukovich. And to finish it off. Omaha, Nebraska, site of the College World Series, and defending champion Texas was looking to repeat, but Fullerton State saw things different. Eddie Delzer was the winning pitcher, lassoing the Longhorns through 7 innings and combining on a 3-hitter with reliever Scott Wright to give Fullerton a 3-1 victory. It was the second NCAA championship for Fullerton, who this year was 65-20. Now it's time for the Big Stick Player of the Week Award, brought to you by new improved Old Spice Stick deodorant and antiperspirant. Greg Luzinski of the Chicago White Sox is this week's winner. He belted a grand slam to beat Minnesota and break out of a home run slump. It was just his second homer of '84 after averaging more than 22 a year over 13 seasons. The next day, Luzinski unloaded another grand slam against the Twins. Only the 10th player to slam in 2 straight games. Congratulations, Bull. Nozdrovia. And that's all for now, folks. See you next week on This Week in Baseball.
At 7 p.m. on TV 11. Brought to you by St. Luke's Hospitals, the Fargo